All right, before I get started, I do just want to say that there is a lot of confusion in discourse about this story. And I just want to say right now that as we go through the story, you'll realize that, you know, a lot of hard conservatives will always say this story is about homosexuality when it's a story about something much worse. Um, I still believe homosexuality is forbidden in the Christian faith for health reasons, I believe. Um, but I also believe that, hatred towards those communities is not healthy. Show people love. But um, as we get through the story, I'm gonna sort of explain. We're gonna see what the actual sin of this story is, instead of just letting both Christians and non-Christians take the story out of context. Is basically what I'm saying here. Now the story is 2 chapters, so we're gonna be here a while. It's starts in Genesis 18. It goes on to Genesis 19. Then the Lord appeared to. Okay, so this is Abraham. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the terebinth trees of Mamre, and he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground, and said, My Lord, if I have now found favor in your sight, do not pass on by your servant. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will bring a morsel of bread, that you may refresh your hearts. After that you may pass by, inasmuch as you have come to your servant. So they said, Do as you said. So Abraham hurried into the tent of Sarah, and said, Quickly, make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and good calf, gave it to a young man, and he hastened to prepare it. So he took butter and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree as they ate. Then they said to him, Where is Sarah your wife? So he said, Here, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of life, and behold, Sarah your wife shall have a son. So, just to give context at this beginning, like this is a very interesting theophany in the Bible. It's like God appears to Abraham and eats a meal with him, like one would with a friend. So that's kind of interesting. And the whole story about Abraham, well, at least the first half of it, was that he and Sarah were promised a kid, and they were continually promised this son, Isaac, who was going to be one of the forefathers of Israel. Um, and so this is another one of those reaffirmations of the promise right here. But it is important for what we're going to be reading in a second. Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? Then the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I surely bear a child, since I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you, according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, No, but you did laugh. Then the men rose from there and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to send them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him, in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they may keep the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me. And if not, I will know. Then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. Now, before we get into this, Abraham's nephew, Lot, he was an important character in Genesis, and Lot lived among the people of Sodom with his family. So during this scene, Abraham's very concerned because his nephew is living in that city. And Abraham came near and said, "Would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?" So the Lord said, "If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes." Then Abraham answered and said, "Indeed now, I who am but dust and ashes, have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose there were 5 less than the 50 righteous. Would you destroy all of the city for lack of 5? So he said, "If I find there 45, I will not destroy it." And he spoke to him yet again and said, "Suppose there should be only 40 found there." So he said, "I will not do it for the sake of 40. Then he said, "Let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 should be found there." So he said, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." And he said, "Indeed now I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 should be found there." So he said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then he said, "Let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak once more. Suppose 10 should be found there." And he said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. So the Lord went his way as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So this is kind of like the prologue to the story. I felt like it was important enough to bring up because I want to read these in their entirety. Um, oh, it's loading. We'll just have to wait. Okay. Now the two angels, so these were like the two angels that were with God at the time. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, "Hear now, my lords, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way." And they said, "No, but we will spend the night in the open square." But he insisted strongly, so they turned into him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. And Lot is Abraham's nephew. Now before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them carnally." So this is why they think it's about a specific that thing. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind him, and said, "Please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. See now, I have two daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof." And they said, "Stand back." Then they said, "This one came in to stay here, and he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them." So they pressed hard against the man Lot, and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. Okay, so I'm going to explain some stuff here. What these people are doing here, this is not your neighbor knocking on your door and asking you if you could spare a cup of carnal pleasure. That is not what these people are doing. These people are saying, "You will let us into the house or we will break into it." This is force. I'm not going to use the actual word because YouTube doesn't like it, but this is force. This is bad. And now there's one element of Lot's character that a lot of people do criticize here. And I do not believe the Bible is portraying this as a good thing. He says he has two daughters, and they have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you. Only do not hurt the people who came to my house. Now, he is probably acting in fear here, and what he's doing is not how we deal with a situation like this. This is not the right way of doing this. Um, but the Bible never claims that Lot was good for this offer that he made right here. It never says he is. This is clearly a man who is confronted with a very fearful situation and acting in his fear, um, presenting a not much greater alternative. All right. Then the men said, "Okay, so these are the angels talking about." Then the men said to Lot, "Have you anyone else here, son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whomever you have in the city? Take them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who had married his daughters, and said, "Get up, get out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city." But to his sons-in-law he seemed to be joking. When the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city." And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hands, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful to him. And they brought him out and set him outside the city. So it came to pass, when they had brought them outside, that he said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere on the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed." Then Lot said to them, "Please, no, my lords. Indeed, now your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have increased your mercy, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. See now, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Please let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live." And he said to him, "See, I have favored you concerning this thing also, and that I will not overthrow the city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there." Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities, all the plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Then he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land which went up like the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. So, this bit right here, but his wife looked back behind him and she became a pillar of salt. A lot of people complain that that's too far. Like, that's too harsh a punishment for looking back. But the thing here is that Lot's family was actively warned. Hang on, where was it? They were actively warned not to look back. If I go, yeah. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. They were warned not to do that. They were directly warned not to do that. And so that's basically just like, that's disobeying like a direct command from an angel, very deliberately. So a lot of people have a problem with how harsh this seems, but I don't have a problem with it. Then Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zoar. And he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. Okay, so this is another bit that a lot of people take issue with, but the Bible is not condoning the behavior of this part. Now the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come in to us, as is the custom of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. It happened on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, "Indeed, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight also, and you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father." And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the people of Ammon to this day. So this is not portrayed as a good thing. Um, and I will repeat this quote from the Bible is very much present in both the Old and New Testament. All have sinned, all have fallen short of the glory of God. All men have sinned. Even servants of the Lord have sinned. Lot has sinned, his daughters have sinned. This story is not portraying every single one of their actions as a good thing. In fact, it really seems like this story is portraying both of these acts of sin that we see here, like Lot offering his daughters. Oh wait, it's up here somewhere. I don't know where it is. I read it earlier. And the daughters then doing this thing without him knowing. These are not portrayed as good things. These are sins. So then the question could then become, if these are very bad sins, and the Bible portrays them as sins, why then did God save Lot from Sodom and Gomorrah? Well, first of all, there could be an element of, like, compared to the people of the city. Like, the people of the city who were actively causing the fear, the people who said they were going to force their way into this house, um, these were men acting in selfishness. And Lot and his daughters were both acting in fear, which, again, they were acting in sin, but they were acting in fear rather than just having all this power and choosing to oppress someone else. So comparatively, um, these people are worse. Second off, it's probably more so for Abraham's sake, because God knew Abraham was worried about Lot specifically. Because, Abraham spoke back here and he said, please don't destroy it for 20. Please don't destroy it for 15. Please don't destroy it for 10. All that time, God knew he was worried about Lot. He was worried about Lot and he was worried about Lot's family. Now, because of the sins of Lot's family, some of them did not make it out of the city. His sons-in-law chose to stay behind because they thought he was joking. His wife looked back at the city she was warned not to look back at while the destruction was occurring. Um, and so it really is the case here that Abraham was caring for a family of sinners, and the Bible is just recording what these people did. It's not trying to teach some message that, oh, this behavior is okay. If anything, it's trying to teach you that even if someone is a servant of the Lord, even if someone is a close family member to a servant of the Lord, humans be humans. Humans do sin, and that's not a good thing. And if you look at the children of Lot here, the Moab and Ben-Ami, the Moabites and Ammonites, these two nations, back when, like, in the future when they eventually become like full-fledged nations, they are very antagonistic towards Israel. They are not good friends with Israel, to say the least. Um, and part of that could be due to upbringing, could be due to, their great grandfather lived in a not so great household. Then he made his kids live in a not so great household. Great, 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 not so great grandfather. I feel obligated to make that reference. Um, so yeah, I mean, this story is just describing what happened, and in terms of what God did, punishing a city of force, of forcers, I'll call them. Um, that that is something I do believe is justified. I do believe the death penalty can be applied to forcers. I do believe that. And that's basically the context of this story. The story is brought up throughout like future scriptures, and a lot of people. My main problem with when people reference this is that they focus in on the homosexual aspect of it, like that these people are homosexuals, which yeah they are, and yeah that's forbidden in Christianity, but they focus too much on that and not enough on the fact that these were forcers. And I just wanted to explain that that was the case. I also wanted to bring up the stuff with the sins of Lot's family because that's something that a lot of atheists bring up when they mention the story. But none of that behavior is justified by God. One thing that Lot did do here that was, looked on fondly in future scriptures is that he did take these people who could have possibly been in danger. He invited them into his home so they would be safe from the people of Sodom. That is one thing that the Bible does compliment Lot for, but the offering of his daughters is not something that he's complimented for, and his daughters are not portrayed as saints in any way. Let's just read it in context,